for me also, I didn't even understand that what I was feeling and going through, whether it was anxiety, depression, or whatever it was not normal, because my group of people are also athletes. So it was just kind of like, that was just a known thing that we all had to do and deal with. And I didn't even understand that, no, you shouldn't feel this level of depression or anxiety, or the need to perform at the highest level and all those sorts of things.
Hey y'all, Jannah Tucker here, and you're tuning into The Cover.
So hi everybody, and welcome to The Cover. Today we are joined by a special guest, former Villanova guard and my friend, Jannah Tucker. Jannah, thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. So how are you? How are you feeling with everything going on?
I don't even know where to begin. There's definitely a lot of emotion, and I feel like you kind of just have to take every day as it is, and really focus on like taking time for you, because obviously we're really in touch with the media, so that takes a part of us. Like every time we log on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it may be, CNN, I know that's on all the time because my mom is like addicted. So that's on all the time. But I'm good, trying to keep good high spirits. How are you?
Every day is like just having to readjust and recenter myself because there's so much happening. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to just take breaks from social media because it's a lot to see, like all the horrible things that are happening to people, all the protests, all the different like legislation that's going on. It's just a lot to process. So I'm trying to take it, one step at a time. Sometimes stepping back at that is like also helpful, especially for you mentally. It's like you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself too, while you fight for the culture, but you can't fight for the culture if you're not mentally okay. So I think that's kind of where I am right now. But we see like so many athletes that either taking to the streets and protesting or posting on social media. So what's your take on athletes using their platform to fight for social justice?
I think it's amazing, and I think it needs to be done, because having that platform is so crucial for the amount of people that you'll touch. And it's not even really about like everyone that saw that has to make a change and go out and protest, whatever. At the end of the day, people are viewing that. So that if they're viewing it, they can't hide from, oh, this isn't happening, and behind their ignorance, you know what I mean? So I think it's great. I so highly respect and appreciate all the people that have done it. I also think there's an aspect of it of like, I'm a fan of this person, so I'm going to do this too. But like, hey, the more the merrier. Come on for the cause, because it's not really just a cause. It's just like a fact of things that should happen. But hey, there's that. But no, I think it's really cool, and I think it's really cool to see different people's perspectives, and people who are normally introverted and quiet, and seeing them speak out on a different like intellectual wavelength is really, really cool to see who they are as a person, and to see people's vulnerability and honestly their courage to like call people out and take a stand, because everything we do, whether it's play a sport, whatever we do, everything is so social, and people are going to look at us as what we represent.
Right. What are your thoughts on NBA players saying that like bringing the NBA back, bringing basketball back is a distraction from everything that's going on?
I'm a little ambivalent about it, because I know I have like WNBA friends who are like, listen, I've worked for this and I want to do this. And or NBA guys are like, this has given me an opportunity to provide for my family and all those sorts of things. So I get that. I also get that going back to normal is just unacceptable and can't happen. So I do fear that, people just watching sports all day is going to have us like go back to normal. I would hope that we can infuse the two, and, more than just like a Black Lives Matter sign. Like, I would like for there to be something to where when I turn on TV and when I turn on the game, I have to see it still. Like, I don't want it to be an out and an escape, because this is not something we can escape or should escape for that matter. So I get both of them. I definitely don't think it's the only way to fight for justice, but if that's your personal decision and that's how you feel is best for you, do that. I'm not going to sit and judge somebody who feels like that's how they're going to do it, or somebody who wants to take a Maya Moore's path, which is just amazing in of itself, and do that. Because I'm all about it's bigger than sports, but I also know the impact that sports has, especially on the mass population.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a tough one. I think it just comes down to you personally. Whatever you're gonna feel good going to bed at night doing, then you do that.
Right. I definitely see where you're coming from, but what I'm kind of gathering from what you're saying is like sports have, or people have described sports as sort of an escape from reality, an escape from the problems of society. But in our current times, it kind of makes me think about, well, these Black athletes can't escape their Blackness. So those two things are always kind of being worked on together. So how do you as an athlete, or how did you as an athlete balance your identity of being Black and an athlete, and then also like being a woman? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, I don't even think I really understood that there was a difference in all of them until I got a little older. I was kind of, as an athlete, your life is different than that of a regular person. And I hate even saying regular person because I don't want to like diminish that. You know what I mean? Like we're all people, but your life is different. So I was very highly recruited. I had a lot of attention. So I didn't really live the reality that other people did. I grew up around mostly Black people. So I didn't see, like, I knew my Blackness meant something in the world, but I didn't tie that into sports because most of my teams were Black. And, even when I played USA, most of them were Black. So, that's not something I really understood. But once I got to college, honestly, once I got to Villanova, it was definitely different. And it's a PWI. And, I just saw how much more they needed like diversity and things. And this is like not even a full knock to them, but it's just like so many organizations have to do that, to where they have to like put the Black and brown people in front to show like, hey, we have all these people, which may or may not be true. But I just noticed that there's a much more like fetish over me not being an athlete, me being a Black athlete. Like, I don't know, I feel like I was kind of looked at as like super athletic, which like not anymore. Let me tell you, not athletic anymore. But it's like, I just feel like people look to me in that way. And as a woman, that was really tough for me too, because like I said, I had grown up this like idea of WNBA and all these other things. And I realized that basketball cannot be your career as a woman. It's really sad. It can be for a certain amount of time, but not really. There are women from the U.S. national soccer team who are like, I need to focus on my career. And I'm like, you have done all this for the country at the highest level, competed, and you have to focus on your career. So for me, that involved a lot of like self-reflection and soul searching and figure out who I was as a person, whereas my male counterparts may not have had to do. But I don't know, it was a weird phase to kind of go through, because I was going through that as I was kind of like exiting college. And, the post grad transition is its own beast. Right. So it was really hard to put all those things together and to acknowledge like, no, those things are different.
So like, when did you know that basketball wasn't, I don't want to say a real possibility, because for some women it is. They end up making the WNBA or they play overseas. But when did you know, or when did you start doing that sort of introspection and trying to think about what you wanted to do outside of basketball?
Well, I tore my ACL twice, so that required me to have extra time to think. But then once I came back after my second surgery, I just wasn't feeling as great as I used to. And at that point, I kind of knew like, okay, my body is going to limit me a little bit. I don't know if there's a specific moment when, but I guess that's the closest one of like realizing like, okay, I can't be what I was. And I'm getting older. This is only when I was 20, 21. So it's like, okay, I still have 3 more years left, which yes, everyone, for me, I still had 3 more years left. I was in college 6 years. But at that point, I was like, okay, either I can go and put more stress on my body, or I have to start thinking about, if I want a family and how I'm going to be able to run around with my kids and stuff like that. And the money part of it. Like, okay, I'm going to go and I could make more not playing basketball than I was playing basketball.
Right.
And it was also going through a period of time where I didn't fully love the game like I used to. So for me, it was like all these things just kept adding on to the cons column of that. And I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. I gotta figure it out. But it was definitely hard to accept, like, all these things I worked so hard for, and seeing men that you work harder than, and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the league, I'm gonna do this and that. And I'm like, I put the same, if not more, time in than you did. But that's just how the cookie crumbles at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. I'm hoping it changes, especially with the new rules, but we'll see.
That's true. I can imagine that trying to balance, being a D1 athlete, being a female, dealing with injuries and academics, and then also contemplating, like, what does your life look like after you leave school? Like, is that, professional basketball? Is that something else? I can imagine that takes sort of like a mental toll on you. So did you at all struggle with mental health throughout your time in college?
For sure. I went to college late because I was in a domestic violence situation. So I was dealing with that. I was in therapy while I was in college, dealing with an injury, also in therapy for that. So that was definitely really tough for me. And, it's never a moment of, like we had talked about previously, preventative. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm here.
Right.
This isn't normal. Let me go talk to someone. And then there's the stigma of talking to someone. And then there's the resource of, do we actually have people to talk to? I know friends of mine have gone to talk to whoever at the counseling, whatever, and they've been like, well, maybe you should sit out of practice today. It's like, not an option. I can't just like, hey, actually, I need a mental health day. Gotta go. And it's a shame, but that's the truth. And so for me also, I didn't even understand that what I was feeling and going through, whether it's anxiety, depression, or whatever it was not normal, because my group of people are also athletes. So it was just kind of like, that was just a known thing that we all had to do and deal with. And I didn't even understand that, no, you shouldn't feel this level of depression or anxiety or the need to perform at the highest level and all those sorts of things. No, you shouldn't be able to, like, hide your emotions and keep it going. You should be able to address emotions, and you are entitled to feel certain ways. And the culture of, like, how coaches speak to you, not okay. So all those things that I thought were just normal and just brushed to the side because I'm an athlete and I got to be strong and that's what I got to do, that was really tough for me. And I think that's what also played a part on me deciding not to play further, because I didn't want to. I was like, I'm done with coaches yelling at me. I'm over it. I don't want to get taped. I don't want to go to a compliance meeting or anything. So it was, I knew that I couldn't keep doing that because it was like suppressing my own feelings about myself. And as athletes, people don't really address it. They don't feel like they have time, or any other part of our life. We just get through it. We just put a little extra muscle on it and get through it. And that's not okay either, because eventually it's going to come out. And it's not going to be something, it's going to be something that you wish you handled earlier.
Yeah, so I feel like just like being with the women's team or whatever, and just being around athletes in the past, I feel like universities often support them physically. Like, they have physical rehab for when they get injured. They're constantly working on building up their physical strength to perform. But I think that, or what I've seen, is that the mental aspect is kind of not there. So in your experience, did you feel mentally supported by your university, and how important would you say mental health is for athletes?
Mental health is extremely important for athletes. I personally didn't feel as supported. I was also in an upperclassmen leadership role where I felt like I didn't have time to address what was going on within me, because I thought, I have to be the leader in this. I have to be the role model in this. People are looking to me to keep things together and be the glue. So partially that was on me not even seeking out resources. And another part was, no, I don't think there were enough resources available. And I wasn't supported in that way because, as you saw, there were definitely things that happened my last couple of years that were just not okay for like mental health. And in college, you're dealing with kids between 18 and 22. And that age is so important for how impressionable they are, their perspectives on life and all those sorts of things. And it's so important how you mold them to see the world and how you mold them to understand themselves for once they are not an athlete anymore. And it was definitely hard. I don't even like saying like mental health, because yes, it's the mental health, but really everything has to be aligned. And I'm a very like, spiritual energy kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the holistic well-being of someone is so important. So my body has to feel right, my mind has to feel right, and my mind has power in how my body feels. Like there are definitely points in time where my mind wasn't there and I was more susceptible to injury. So everything holistically has to be aligned in that sense. And I just think people are just like, oh, go see someone, go talk to someone. And that's not for everybody. I've definitely had situations where I'm like, okay, never coming to you again. You did not help me. But, whether it's a mindfulness or whether it's a yoga or whether it's like knowing that they can come talk to you, something of that nature, you have to have some sort of release of all the things that we harbor in, whether it's from a game. And every athlete has had a terrible game where like they can't sleep at night and they're just thinking of every single mistake that they've made. That takes a toll on you. And on top of that, your coach is cussing you out, telling you that like, yeah, you do suck. So like that's a lot to deal with. And you start to accept and believe that. And then for me, it translated over into like real world. And to the point where my post grad transition was tough. And I'm still like semi in it, but like it was tough because, I didn't know how to step out of that basketball world. I thought that I had to be, and I still like to be the best in whatever I'm doing, but I thought that that was all I had to be.
Right.
And I didn't understand that like real world moves much slower than college basketball world. And, I was limiting myself and thinking that I just had to be perfect because in basketball, I didn't try to be perfect, but that was what I was. No, that sounded so bad. I was not perfect. That came out so wrong. I was in this like mood of if I'm not great as best as I can be, then I failed. And that just was not great for my mental health, even as of last year. It was all around tough transition, and mental health should definitely be talked about, and not just talked about, acted upon as far as resources and the whole person. There's a person behind that jersey. Like that feels a different way, that has countered different things in their life, and they should be respected as that person, not as like what I bring to your university.
Right. Do you think that if those, I don't know, counseling resources or even just transitional resources to life after basketball, if those were available to student athletes, do you think they would take advantage of that? Because I know that there is a concern, I guess, that if, an athlete goes to talk to a counselor, it's like, oh, are you going to tell my coach that like I'm dealing with this? Is my coach going to look at me, in a different, what's your opinion on that?
I definitely think it's going to take somebody testing the water first. I don't think if there's like, okay, there's a sports psychologist on every campus now, everyone's going to jump to it. I know personally from friends in the NBA guys didn't jump to that when they required a sports psychologist on every staff. So it's definitely going to take at least just one person going and seeing for themselves. Because again, as an athlete, you don't know who knows who and who's going to say something to who. And you see mental health or mental health issues as a weakness. So I hope that they can provide more resources. I don't think coaches need to know who is going to whatever resources. So there's a confidentiality piece in that. But I'm hoping that people can just kind of step up, and then once other people see it's helping them, then they'll kind of trickle on from that point.
So you started a company called FENOM. So just talk to me about that. What's the story behind it? What's the story behind the name?
Well, in my post-grad transition, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. It's still kind of weird for me to like call it my own business, but like it is. I pay for it. It's my own business. But I knew I wanted to help athletes. I knew I wanted to help women. I knew I wanted to help women of color. Because the experience of a Black and brown athlete is different than the experience of a white athlete. So, pretty much what I do is I just go and speak to groups of young girls or older women, whatever it may be, honestly, and just try to have an open dialogue and open conversation, because I like to think of it as my own source of research and continuing to help people. But as far as like the younger girls, give them like affirmations and kind of life skills that they'll need to go on in the world, and to know that they have that support in me. Like I said, mostly I think it's just kind of like an open dialogue and a safe space, but really it's to help people and make space for more Black and brown people, and investing in like that youth and Black futures, because I think that's really, especially with how Gen Z is, that's what's going to be super important in making a change. So, I was just like, I want to give that all to them. And I'm a big person that's like, share what you've learned, pass it down to the next person, help them not make the same mistakes you've made, and let them be great. Because I feel like some people do that, but they don't explain why. And they're not having a real conversation about it. People will be like, oh, you don't understand what we did for y'all. And I'm like, okay, so what did you do? Like, let me know so I don't do the same thing, and so I can understand it further. Right. So it's been pretty cool. The name, I went through many names, and then one day I just randomly thought of it. I was like, got it. Literally, that's just what happened. I was just staring off into space one day, and it just came to me. And then I knew I liked the female symbol, but I got that from the shirts that say like "Better on Women," and they have the O and the female symbol. So I was like, this is gonna be it. And then I just kind of went from there. But that was really hard to start, because the same reason that I said with the mental health aspect of it, I'm like, can I do this? Can I do this and not be like the best at it? Like, I don't have many hobbies that I don't do anything that I know I'm not gonna be like good at.
Right.
And that's not it's not normal either. Like, so things like that, it was hard for me to even start, because I felt like I only had to be this big brand and do this global stuff. And it's like, no, just be whoever you want to be and the best you can, and have fun with it. And that should be all you need. You don't need the validation of others like you did when you were playing sports. So I hope to keep touching little Black and brown hearts and souls, and to let them know that they have me and these other people. Hopefully I want to do a bunch of panels for athletes too, and keep it going from there. But right now, I'm just random groups of people I talk to and have fun and share stories and all that. So it's great.
That's really amazing. And I think that it's definitely an area or a niche that like really is kind of is on the come up, I guess. Now we're really trying to mold, Black youth and empower Black youth. So it's like really amazing that you're doing that for Black women. Cause like you said, the experience for, Black women and Black men is very, very different.
Oh,
but when you think about FENOM and you think about the future of FENOM, what do you see? Like, where would you like it to expand?
That's a tough question. I would like for it to expand to a more mentorship program, to where people like how Carrie does, and Maria Taylor and all these sorts of people who have these organizations and programs and foundations that see people through the process. Because I feel like right now I'm just kind of, like I said, having the conversation, but I want it to be to a point where I'm actually helping people step by step, and I have a team that helps young women and young female athletes and young Black and brown women step by step through their success and open doors for them. So I guess that's where I see it in the long run. I also kind of want to tie in that, like, this is exclusive info. I want to tie in like some sort of fashion piece to it, because I think there's not enough out there for tall women, for tall curvy women, and as Black and brown women, we know not everything is like made for us. But I want it to also be tied into like a mental health part of that. So whether it's, you know, as you receive your merchandise, there's like a journal in it. And there's, so I want to tie in what I'm doing now and that piece of it to kind of keep, you know, spread the good word. But we'll see if that happens. Exclusive.
That sounds good. I feel like the plan is good.
Thank you.
And then lastly, this is just kind of like a little fun thing that we like to do. But if you were to have your own magazine cover, what would you title your cover story?
What would I title my cover story? This is a tough on-the-spot question. Would have liked to know this. I guess mine would just kind of be like living life for you. Because at the end of the day, that's all we really can do. And living life for you means self-reflection, self-accountability, self-love. It means all those things. So you can't just say like live life for you and then it's like I'm gonna recklessly do whatever I want. It's like, no, living life holistically for you. So, you know, that's kind of what I apply to my everyday of, as long as I'm okay and I have peace within me and don't lose that like empathy piece, I feel like that's what I live my life by. Actually, literally, I have this everywhere I am, like in my room, in my phone, everywhere. And it's live, love, laugh, learn, grow. I've lived all those things. So that's my new answer.
That's your cover story.
Live, laugh, love, learn, and grow.
That's great.
That is, thank you. It took me however long, and it's literally everywhere around me. I have a freaking poster of it. But yes, so that would probably be my cover story.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the cover.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing FENOM with us and sharing all your thoughts on mental health for athletes and where you think, you know, it should go and what you're looking to do to help change the stigmas behind mental health. So thank you for joining us.